The inexperienced in wisdom and virtue, ever occupied with feasting and such, are carried downward, and there, as is fitting, they wander their whole life long, neither ever looking upward to the truth above them, nor rising toward it, nor tasting pure and lasting pleasures. Like cattle, always looking downward with their heads bent towards the ground and the banquet tables, they feed, fatten and fornicate. In order to increase their possessions, they kick and butt with horns and hooves of steel, and kill each other, insatiable as they are. Welcome to Orion Philosophy, where we explore, discuss and dissect areas of practical philosophy for use in everyday life. The conditions of our mind determine the conditions of our life. You and I don't experience life as it is. We experience it as we are. And by that I mean that everything we experience in the world around us is filtered through our own beliefs, values, biases, and preconceptions. This means that our resulting experience and how we feel about something are colored by who we are and what we've been through. This feeling determines our actions, and these actions over a period of time change the course of our lives. The conditions of our mind will determine the conditions of our life. And today we're going to be using the philosophy of Socrates to learn how to make these conditions as favorable as possible and help us move towards the lives we want for ourselves, whatever that might mean for you. Socrates was an ancient Greek philosopher born around 470 BC, the son of a stoneworker and a midwife, and an Athenian citizen. Throughout the 420s, Socrates was deployed at various battles during the Peloponnesian War, and ultimately returned to Athens, becoming the philosopher we know him as today. At the time, despite Athens being a place in which people put a strong value on appearance, on beauty, wealth, and status, Socrates seemed to shun these things and was notoriously ugly with a turned-up nose, bulging eyes, and large belly. He seemed indifferent to material wealth, in contrast to those around him. He neglected personal hygiene, comfort, walked barefoot, and was said to have only owned one tattered coat. He moderated his eating, and he moderated pleasure, and altogether went against the grain of the society he lived in. He said, "I do nothing but go about persuading you all, old and young alike, not to take thought for your persons or your properties, but, and chiefly, to care about the greatest improvement of the soul. I tell you that virtue is not given by money, but that from virtue comes money, and every other good of man, public as well as private. This is my teaching, and if this is the doctrine which corrupts the youth, I am a mischievous person." Despite all of this, he became a man of interest among the Athenian people, some favorably as they followed his teaching and listened to him speak on philosophy and the ways to live a good life. Others unfavorably because of his tendency to challenge poor decisions from the officials and the high-up people in society, or question people's beliefs and motives, which wasn't always welcome. Socrates became known as one of the founders of Western philosophy, and while we won't have time here to go through all of his work, we will explore his Socratic Method, a practice of questioning ourselves to uncover inconsistency and falsehood in the beliefs and opinions that we hold. These could be opinions about ourselves, about others, or generally about the world around us. The benefit of this is that when we use this method regularly, we weed out and protect ourselves from negative and destructive beliefs, and stop them from rooting themselves in our mind. And as a result, we respond more favorably to the experiences around us. This practice can be split into 3 steps, each of which goes some way to shedding light on why we believe what we believe, and challenging us to be accountable for the beliefs that underpin the way we live our lives, and the beliefs that guide our actions. If we find ourselves struggling to defend an opinion, it may well be because that particular opinion is grounded in falsehood and requires modification. The 3 steps we'll use to get from start to finish are awareness, questioning, and reframing. Awareness is the step that's needed before the other 2. If a builder doesn't have a plan for a building or know what materials they're working with, it will be very difficult for them to get a good end result. Similarly, if we don't have a clear image of the belief we hold or the reasons for it, it will be very difficult for us to mold and shape it into something more favorable. Personally, I find the best tools for helping with awareness are a combination of meditation, where we focus on a specific subject, belief, or opinion to try and understand it better, and journaling to write down what you find. When we use these 2 in combination, meditation adds clarity, and writing it down helps solidify the realization in your mind. Writing things down in journaling also allows you to return to things you've worked on in the past if you need to refresh the activity. However, the tools we use are dependent on the people using them. While meditation might work for me, it might not work for everyone. Some people like recording themselves messages. Other people like writing on post-it notes and putting them on places they can easily see. Others like whiteboards or having an object on them as a reminder like a pendant or a ring. But really just use whatever works for you. Whatever it is, if it works for you, it works for you. The second step of questioning is needed after we're made aware of what we're working with. And this is probably the largest and most difficult part of the entire process, and where we'll look to Socrates and his philosophy for guidance. Questioning is difficult because it requires us to be open and honest with ourselves, and this often involves admitting where we're wrong, accepting that we have work to do, being vulnerable, opening up to the fact that what we believe may not be accurate, and a whole host of other things that may be difficult pills for us to swallow. However, this is often exactly what's needed in order for us to grow, in order for us to develop, and ultimately reframe those weeds in our mind that are subtly warping how we see the world, how we see other people, and how we see ourselves. The better we become at being honest with ourselves, the faster we'll flow through this process and the better our lives become as a result. Because, as we've said, the conditions of our mind will dictate the quality of our life. Socrates said true wisdom comes to each of us when we realize how little we understand about life, ourselves, and the world around us. So what questions do we need to ask, and how can we use the work of Socrates to help us live better lives? Generally, we can split the Socratic method into roughly 6 parts. These parts, when used in sequence, can be used at any time when we're trying to reframe a thought or a belief. The first step is identify what you're thinking. Why are we saying this? And explain exactly what we mean when we're thinking or saying something. The second part is to challenge the thought. Is what we're thinking always true? Under what conditions could this not be true? Are there any assumptions we're making to get to this conclusion? The third step is to ask ourselves what facts make us believe this. Is the source of those facts reliable? Are there any other facts or any other evidence that contradict this thought or this view? And how do we know these facts to be true? The fourth step is to deliberately look at our thought or opinion from a completely different angle. Is it possible for someone to see this in a different way? If someone was to argue with me, what would be their counter-argument, and would that argument make any sense? The fifth step is exploring the implications and consequences of this thought or belief. For example, how does this thought impact all the other thoughts I have? If the thing I'm thinking about happened, what would the result be, and how would I feel about it? And then the sixth and final step, question the question. Why did I ask all of the previous questions? Why were those questions important? And which of those questions turned out to be the most useful? This loop can be done over and over again as you get a clearer and clearer image in your mind of what you believe about a certain thing, the opinions you hold about the world around you, the opinions you hold about other people, and the perspectives you have of yourself, whether they're constructive or destructive. I like to think of it as a purification process. We're starting with murky, muddy water, and we go through each step to make it clearer and clearer until we know exactly what it is we have. Sometimes in that murky water we'll find a lie, and sometimes in that murky water we'll find that the beliefs we have are actually pretty realistic. If you do this regularly, you'll find that as you move through these steps, you'll be made aware of how flawed and baseless some of our beliefs really are. Many of the thoughts that hold us back are more a product of our own imagination than of any real tangible fact. And this process helps to highlight that and weaken the hold of destructive beliefs. The third and final step is reframing. Awareness has helped us find a specific belief, value, or assumption that has been holding us back or causing a negative response to something. Questioning has helped us find the cause and reason behind the belief. And it's likely that this questioning has weakened the foundation upon which that belief was built. Now we have reframing to knock down the old belief and build it up in a way that works for us, rather than against us. Where the questioning stage erodes false belief and eats away any thought we hold that doesn't have merit, reframing is the process of asking, if that belief is not true and had a negative impact on my mindset, what belief is true and what belief is constructive? Of course, we have to be careful not to create beliefs that on the face of it seem constructive but are in fact built on information that's just as false as the negative ones. For example, believing that I'm bulletproof and nothing can hurt me. That might seem like a positive belief, but actually it's just as false as the negative one might be. It's better to align ourselves more closely with reality than it is to pull the wool over our own eyes. Generally, the further our beliefs are from reality, the more we suffer when we inevitably have to face that reality. As Socrates said, anyone who holds a true opinion without understanding it is like a blind man on the right road. We can even run our new beliefs that we get through reframing through that same Socratic questioning, and this will make sure that they're as solid as they can be. But regardless of how you use this information, or how helpful you think Socrates and his philosophy are, I hope there's something here that you can use in your day-to-day life.